I know what I do and do not deserve, and what I should and should not entertain. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you are all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about something really interesting. This was actually something that kept popping up in a lot of conversations that I have been having recently, and I thought, you know what? Maybe there's a video idea here somewhere, so walk with me. I was at church, and then after church, somebody came up to me and they were like, oh, I really love your channel. I really love your videos. Shout out to everybody who stops me while I'm outside and says that they watch me. It's very encouraging because oftentimes I don't know what I'm doing out on these streets. So it's really good to know that my journey, my content helps you and that you enjoy it. But back to the conversation. So she tells me that she really loves my channel and she's been watching it for years now. And if you know my channel and my story, I started YouTube in my first year of university. So I was just 18 years old. It's absolutely crazy because I'm about to be 26. And she was saying how through following my journey of education to building a business to the sisterhood and becoming an author and all of that, she really was inspired by the fact she felt like I had used my singleness well and how I was showing how to use your singleness. And I had never thought of my content in that way. And I kind of, I said thank you. And it really did make me feel good, but I just moved on from it. And then recently I was having a conversation with my brother and he was like, oh, Courtney, I feel like you've used your 20s and you've used this period of like not having kids, because my brother has an amazing child, my niece. And he was like, you've used this period of not having kids like really, really well. You've done things, you've taken risks. And I was like, oh, thanks, bro. Like, kudos to me. Everyone is giving me my flowers these days. And then the cherry was put on the cake when I was talking with my younger sister, who you saw in the Barcelona vlog. Thank you to everyone who showed her love. And she was like, I really want to do my singleness well. I feel like you have done singleness really well. And I was just here thinking, what is everybody seeing that I'm not seeing? Because I'm just trying to do life. So I was really meditating on it and thinking about it, thinking, okay, God, if I was to get married, like in the next couple of years, would I be happy with how my singleness went? And my conclusion was yes. I had come to the conclusion that I'm actually happy. I'm very content and I'm quite, without sounding, egotistical, I'm actually quite proud of myself around how I have used my early 20s. And so I wanted to talk about how to make use of your singleness if you are being intentional. Well, if you are single and using this period intentionally, or if you're just in your early 20s and you're trying to make use of the time you may have before you have children, things like that. If you are somebody who's in that season of, you don't really have that many responsibilities, maybe apart from bills, child, because that's the one thing that will keep me up at night. So maybe apart from bills and work and your career, maybe all of your responsibilities are to do with you. So maybe you're in your selfish era or just getting to do you era. I wanted to talk about how you can make the most of that era, goals you can set and things you can cultivate to be able to look back or to just look forward and say you're doing this thing well. Let's get into it. Financial literacy and stability. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like your 20s are probably the years where you're going to make the least amount of money. You're grafting, you're figuring things out. You're trying to get on your feet, climb up the corporate ladder, climb up the career ladder, pay your dues, whatever it is. You're basically only getting started. But one of the biggest things I have really benefited from in this season of my life before, mortgage, kids, school fees potentially, or whatever lies in my future comes my way, is making sure I understand money and I also know my financial philosophy. So what is my perspective towards money? Am I a spender? Am I a saver? Do I see benefit in spending? Why do I spend? Why do I save? What is my approach to saving? What am I saving for? All of these different things, answering those questions for myself and really asking myself, what's your relationship with money, and educating myself on how to create a better relationship with money, I think has been one of the greatest things to do without the pressure of anybody else's expectations, anybody else's needs, and also just having to provide for me. I've been able to take a lot of career risks in being an entrepreneur, being self-employed, because I was young, because I was single, because I was childless. And that for me is a great use of this season where, I can take risks and only have to care about me being the fallout and, you know, my feelings and my self-esteem, but I don't have to worry about it taking food out of anybody else's mouth or needing to be, you know, financially stable because of other assets and liabilities which may be on my neck because I have responsibilities. And so really taking time to educate yourself on finances. I've watched channels like, or I still watch channels like the Humble Penny, Pennies to Pound podcast, Pennies to Pounds podcast, sorry. I listen Dave Ramsey, that's like a classic one. Reading books, not just books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which are really good, but other books which talk about how you can use your money on a day-to-day basis, and just looking for resources that really educate you on how to make the most of money as well in our generation. I think one of the things that has benefited me just in general at a young age is not feeling like I had to keep up with trends, not feeling like I had to, you know, keep up with brands, not really chasing the latest things and feeling like I had to spend money on them, and really detaching my self-esteem from my possessions. And I think working on your mindset and working on your relationship with money in that way, or in whatever way suits you and your future, really does help you to be better standing and in knowing what you want and how you're going to build your future as well. I'll leave some suggestions down below, but if you want a more detailed video on the things that I have learnt about money in my 20s, then let me know. But I'll leave in the iCards above some of the videos that I have done in the past talking about my financial journey in my 20s. The next thing is discipline. So as somebody who has big goals, let's not even talk about wanting to be married and have kids in the future, but as somebody who just is ambitious, one of the things that has been a bitter pill to swallow is that you need a bit of discipline in your life. You need a bit of, you know, that gusto that gets you up in the morning to do the things you don't really want to do, but know you have to do in order to be where you want to be. And for me, cultivating discipline in different forms, like physical discipline in terms of, you know, physically exercising, going to the gym, having a diet that is, you know, made up of mostly whole and nutritious food has been very helpful for me to be able to see growth in the area of my body and taking care and nurturing my body, especially because if you've been following my channel as well, I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a hormonal imbalance condition. And learning about my body and doing something about it has definitely helped better set me for my future, as well as thinking about things like fertility or how my energy levels may affect my work and my output. It's just been really nice getting to employ discipline in some way in order to benefit me, not just now, but in future seasons of my life. I think another area where I've really tried to, you know, be disciplined is with my time management. Now, I have not always been good at this, but having boundaries around my work and making sure that in the time that I allocate to work, I'm actually effective and productive. I'm trying to live a more balanced life, if you believe in the concept of balance. I've been trying my best to live a more balanced life and training myself to do that now, because I feel like as you pile more and more stuff on top of yourself, such as responsibilities and other people's expectations and needs, you really do need a strong foundation. And more generally, I think singleness really is you setting a foundation for your life before you put on the weight of everybody else and everything else that you're now called to be doing, and the way that life changes as you get older. Really employing discipline and making sure that even sexually, if I want to get married one day, it'll be good to have sexual discipline and be able to do that in my singleness, so that whilst I'm in marriage, it's not made that much harder because I didn't know how to do it in the first place. So I think learning something like discipline in your singleness really does carry over well into future seasons, but it benefits you as an ambitious person anyway. The next big thing I would say is learning to cultivate joy and contentment. If you've watched any of the singleness content here on my channel, you always know that I try to encourage people to be happy whilst they are single. And it is a very human feeling to feel lonely or to desire a relationship. And so it doesn't make you, you know, bad or like you're not using your singleness if you are, you know, upset that you haven't got a partner. However, I do think it's important to cultivate a sense of joy and contentment in your singleness, for the simple fact that having kids or being in a committed relationship or having a spouse isn't necessarily going to make you happy. I think as women, a lot of our fulfillment, we are told, is found in being a wife and being a mother. And I'm not saying those things are not fulfilling and they are not purposeful. Please, please, please. That is not what I'm saying. But I think to set your hopes and your sight on marriage and kids bringing you happiness may lead you up to disappointment once you realize that not only are you marrying a human being, you are also giving birth to human beings, which means that the people who occupy that role in your life could potentially fail you in some way, and more importantly, are not set on a mission to just make you happy. And I think as women, we can become a bit upset when it feels like the people in our lives who we have waited so excitedly for aren't necessarily pleasing us, because we don't know how to cultivate joy and happiness in ourselves and from ourselves. And for me, finding joy and contentment in God and with my life, and being able to see the bright side of things and being able to practice gratitude and journal and give God praise and all of these things have helped me to be able to look at life less from the place of life needs to be perfect and life needs to be complete before I'm happy, and more so from the standpoint that I can find happiness at any aspect of the journey. I can enjoy myself, I can enjoy the people in my life, I can enjoy the things around me, and I'm not just waiting for this one moment or this one person to be happy. And I think and I hope that in the future, having learnt that skill of cultivating joy and contentment and looking to God to be able to find it, will be able to help me see, the rainbow when life feels a little bit grey and cloudy in the future. The next thing I would say would make a great use of your singleness, and something which you can cultivate in this time, is surrounding yourself with a solid community. I have spoken about this so many times before, but from friends to a church community or a faith-based community, or just clubs that you're a part of, or just people you can speak to, it's nice to be surrounded by people who can hold you up in very challenging times. And I find that those relationships should actually be cultivated whilst you're single. Get used to being around people, get used to appreciating people. Don't isolate yourself from people, especially on a more practical sense. If you want to find somebody, it's kind of easier to find someone through other people who can vouch for them. But if you don't have community around you, there's not going to be anyone to introduce you to that special person or vet them once you finally find them, or give you advice on what a relationship, especially from people who are already at that stage, give you advice on what a relationship entails and what having kids may look like and how they're navigating parenting. Just having people's advice and their wisdom is helpful in life in general. But you won't really have that if you don't start cultivating strong community around you. So start investing in your friendships. Start, finding yourself in spaces where you can find like-minded people who you actually like and want to spend time with. I'm very happy in this time of my life with my friendships, and knowing that I am doing life with people who I think are really, really cool, who love me and who I love as well, and who make life a little bit less lonely. If you kind of want to learn how to build lifelong friendships for yourself, then I'd highly recommend you actually read my book. My best friend and I actually have a sisterhood community here on the internet called To My Sisters, and we have a book which details how you can build lifelong friendships in your life. So I'll leave the link in the description for you to get it in the UK, the US, in South Africa, and in other territories. So check it out. The penultimate thing is confidence. I don't know how much I need to talk about this, but I feel like I need to do more videos on confidence, because I feel like I'm coming into my confident girl era where I just know who I am. I know who God is. And I know my identity in Him, and it feels good. It feels liberating to not be held back by my own insecurities or doubts about myself and about my future. Now, for me, confidence isn't about perfection, and it isn't about arrogance either. And I think that's a fine line which we as women in this level up and, being the it girl era need to be careful of. But I do think that having a sense of confidence in God, and confidence also in my skills, which I have worked so hard to sharpen, has really liberated me. And I think having that confidence in myself, the way that I look, the way I think, the way I talk, and really appreciating my uniqueness and valuing it, means that as I navigate the dating world, as I navigate, wanting to be someone's parent one day, I can kind of stand firm in knowing, listen, I've figured things out before and I've liked where it's gotten me. And so I'll figure out the challenges that are going to come my way by God's grace. But also, I know what I do and do not deserve, and what I should and should not entertain. Now, listen, light and beautiful things attract absolutely everything, from the most beautiful butterfly to the ugliest of moths. No hate to moths, but you're annoying. What I am not saying is that I've become this person who only attracts good things, but I have become a person who discerns what is good and what is not in my life and what is good for me. And so I think it's important to cultivate a level of confidence which says, you know what, I know what I should and should not tolerate based on the way that I actually view myself. I will not allow myself to be treated less than who I am and what I see, or to receive something which actually isn't helpful to me, which is actually quite dangerous or detrimental to me. And I think that level of self-esteem is something you need to cultivate so that you do not get it from another external source, such as your relationship status, what somebody else says about you, how they view you, how your kids are performing, all of that. I'm not saying that these things can't, boost your confidence a little bit, but you should have an existing confidence and an existing esteem which predates any of these things. So working on yourself in your singleness, working on your confidence in your singleness, I think makes life a lot more enjoyable and easier. And the last thing is purpose. And when I say this, I'm not just talking about finding your purpose, the grand old search for why you were put here on earth, but I actually mean being purposeful. This to me is about finding meaningful, fulfilling work and causes which matter to me. Being able to use my skills, my gifts, my talents, and these beginning years of my career to be able to do something I care about is, in my opinion, one of the greatest privileges I have had in my life. And as people who have an impact on the world that we live in, from the communities we're in, the family that we are in, and the organizations we're in, I think it's important to use your singleness to really dedicate yourself to loving people and loving the world and showing that love through your purposeful and meaningful work, cultivating an excellence when it comes to your output and what it is you do, investing in your skills, making sure that you're actually pursuing something which motivates you to wake up in the morning. And I know not everybody has that opportunity, but I do think it's great if you can, to be able to navigate your way through your career by being oriented by purpose, actually allowing purpose to guide you. What do I actually care about? What do I want to dedicate my time and my effort to? Because work takes up a whole bunch of our lives. And so for me personally, I decided in my early 20s that I only wanted to do things which I really cared about. And I took a lot of risks. Some of them, not all of them worked basically, but I took a lot of risks to be able to make sure I could make that happen. And by God's grace, a lot of them did. And I'm doing a lot of work right now, which I think is very purposeful and meaningful, not just in building To My Sisters as a community for women, but also in being a school governor and being able to dedicate my time to helping a school full of girls and girl students to be able to grow and learn and have a good quality education, or loads of charity work that I'm able to do through the sisterhood, being able to do things which I think, this actually matters, being able to do YouTube and help people through the content that I create and the things that I say. It's been really nice to get to discover what I like and what matters to me and be able to experiment with it, and also dedicate my time and my effort to actually serving people and serving my community. And in some way, then serving myself, because I get to learn so much more and feel really fulfilled with the things that I am doing, even in the challenging moments when it feels like, I don't really know how this thing really is working, it's great to know that at least it excites me. At least I feel fulfilled by it. And that has really helped me to know that I've used my singleness quite well. Not to say I wouldn't do that if I was married, but I think it's nice to know what you're about before you meet somebody. Not because they'll necessarily derail you, but it's really nice to know that this is what I'm building and I want to find somebody who can complement me building that, or these are what my skills and talents are, and I want to find somebody and build a life that can make use of these things. Knowing myself, knowing my capacity, and knowing what my vision is has really helped me to think about what my future will look like. And so finding a partner who can suit that, I hope will be a lot easier. So I hope this video was actually helpful. I hope that my ramblings were helpful to you and gave you some things to think about. Let me know if you have any tips, thoughts, experiences, stories down below in the comments section. As always, keep it respectful and loving. I hope that I will talk to you very, very soon in my next video. And as always, stay beautiful and stay blessed. Mwah.